Welcome to another edition of the Business and Personal Podcast, where we bring you closer to the people that you do business with today. And with Autism Acceptance Month here upon us in April, we're very excited to have Karoline Kenville. She's the Executive Clinical Director of Laugh and Learn Autism Therapy. They have locations in Grand Blanc, Brighton, and they also serve Oakland County for a very important need. Many families out there very, very much value their services. So we're here to learn more about what they do and just the whole world of autism treatment in general. So, Karoline, first of all, thanks so much for joining us today with your busy schedule.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I'm so excited to help spread the word and how we can support the community.
So, first of all, just give our listeners, viewers, a little background on yourself and how you ended up at Laugh and Learn.
Oh, great. Thank you. So, I've been in the field of applied behavior analysis since 2009. This was long before there was a Michigan mandate for autism services. So I've been able to watch Michigan kind of develop and grow towards making this change to help support families and children with getting the services they need. Through that process, I went to school at Eastern Michigan University, did my bachelor's and my master's there. I did my certification in applied behavior analysis at Michigan State University. Back when I was doing the certification, you had to do them separate. It wasn't any joined together programs like there are now today. So it's awesome to see that collaboration and that bridge. I started off as a technician working one-on-one with the children, and then slowly, as I continued my certification, did supervision. I worked at a corporate business doing some executive clinical management where one of my job was working on expansion and growth, staff development and training. My PhD is at Oakland University, focusing on early child development. So that way, when I can apply my skills in the field, I'm looking at the child as a developing child instead of just a child with autism. But how can we support the developing child, looking at the child from a developmental standpoint, and then understanding those barriers of autism with that. So that's a little bit of my background there. I came to Laugh and Learn about 2.5 years ago. I had met one of the owners at an autism event and really loved their mission and their statement. I had a really nice corporate cushion job, I guess you could say. And I really loved that they pushed for that quality over quantity. They really wanted to make sure that the children that they were working with were getting quality services, and this was a passion approach for them, not necessarily like a dollar sign at the end of the day. Really passionate about supporting the community of autism, and not having any experience in autism, but really wanted to support. So after many conversations, I left my corporate job, and I couldn't be happier with that decision because it aligns with my passion, looking at quality of services over trying to hurry up and get a quantity.
Well, I love the name Laugh and Learn, because it can be a very stressful experience for families to help their child navigate through this process. So let's take a lighter approach. Let's make it seem fun and happy. So tell me about kind of how that name came about and just what makes Laugh and Learn different.
So I wasn't around for the naming of the company, but one of the things that I kind of have carried on with the legacy of that is looking at really, I always tell my technicians, if you're not having fun, then the child you're working with isn't having fun. So you've got to have fun with them. You've got to get on their level and engage with them. Follow their lead in a lot of things, especially when it comes to play. What's enjoyable to you might not be enjoyable to them, but this service is about that child. So you need to do things that are fun with them and learn with them. You're not just only teaching them, but you're learning with them. I firmly believe the things that we do in our field is so rewarding, and you've got to be able to take those little steps and appreciate those little gains before you can really look at the big picture. On the tough days, you want to be able to sit back a little bit and, maybe laugh some things off, but you're learning through that process. So I think Laugh and Learn really spreads out across our clients as well as represents what we need to do as a staff.
Absolutely. And I've learned so much probably in the last 4 or 5 years as I've gained more information on the whole autism therapy field. And without a doubt, the services you provide, they're so in demand. One clinic told me when COVID hit, they closed their doors. They didn't think they were an essential business. Within 24 hours, they had people banging on their doors looking for help. So we know that parents really value what you do. And I think one of the bigger challenges that I've seen is they don't really know where to turn. That's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast, to try to educate people about the help that's out there. So for a parent that maybe is doing research, thinks their child might be on the spectrum, they happen to stumble across this podcast here, what would be your advice for them as far as starting the process to see where they should go?
First and foremost, I think what is really important is looking at early intervention and making sure that your child is getting services at the soonest point possible. There's a lot of research that supports the effectiveness of early intervention later in life. So earlier the better. If you have any questions, I strongly recommend reaching out to your pediatrician. They typically have a questionnaire process to kind of get that going. Oftentimes your insurance company will have different steps or processes you need to follow before you can get into ABA services. In order to get into ABA services, you always typically have to have a diagnosis of autism. Insurance companies like Blue Cross require a diagnosis from some of their only preferred locations, which kind of makes things a little more cumbersome. Medicaid also requires it from some of their approved locations. Other insurance companies can be a little bit more flexible. So I do highly recommend calling one of our locations and we can kind of take a look at what that looks like for you. It is a little bit individualized based on where the funding is coming from, such as your insurance. The second piece is you can always call the number on the back of your insurance card and they can help give you some direction on what to do next or where to get testing. Some insurance also require you to have a full comprehensive evaluation, and some of them just require it from a psychologist. So not a direct answer that you might be looking for, but there's a lot of different avenues and, we're more than happy to help support in finding that avenue with you.
Yeah, the easiest answer is just pick up a phone call, Laugh and Learn. At the very least, you can point people in the right direction, if not help them from the get-go on it. And I think the message there is it's kind of similar to any health issues, right? If you're having chest pains, well, you should probably get checked out for heart disease or different things like that. If you get those things checked out earlier, chances of success go much higher, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even going back to the pediatrician, in my own personal experience, there were times where I just knew something wasn't connecting well and I had to advocate for my child, and that's okay. You might have to do that. Pediatricians are busy, right? Not all, but they're busy. They're in and they're out and they spend 15 minutes with you. It really might take even an opportunity to have a conversation with a board certified behavior analyst to really kind of figure out, are these symptomologies of autism or is it something else? And that's something that our team's more than happy to do to help support getting parents in the right direction.
And on that note, as great as the services are that you provide, you can't be there 24/7 for the child. So you don't want to have a situation where the parent drops the child off, so put the child in the car, they drive away, and they don't have any involvement in the process. They need to be very involved and understand, how this treatment works so they can carry that on in the home environment as well. So how important is it to involve the parents in the process?
Extremely important. In fact, the research really supports if we can't generalize the skills outside of what we're doing in ABA, in having that parent collaboration, the less likelihood of the effects of the ABA treatment, the window is smaller of it lasting. So it's really important that the parents are involved with communication, understanding the behavior plans, and it's really essentially the responsibility of also the BCBA or clinical director to make sure that the family members are understanding and engaged in that process. On the other side of it, we really need the parents' buy-in in the process also. they have a say, they can advocate for their child, but that parent training and involvement is essential. We can teach the children so many great things within the clinic, but if we can't practice them outside of the clinic, in the home or in the community, what good is what we're doing, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So as we reach another Autism Acceptance Month here in April, it's always a good time to reflect, how far along have we come with this? I think every clinic I talk to, every person I talk to in this field is just, I think the main feedback I get is people don't understand how talented these kids are. And they just maybe don't know exactly how to communicate. They want to communicate. They don't know exactly how to. It's just a matter of bringing that superpowers, for lack of a better term, out of them, because everybody has one, right? And that's the beautiful work that you all do in that direction. Now, are you seeing just in general that you think people have a better understanding of how to interact with children with autism, and that they're seeing the special that they have in them?
Yeah, especially since I've been able to see, the world of autism before there was a Michigan mandate or a mandate for services in 2009. That really didn't start evolving in 2012, 2014. So I think we've come afar. I definitely think we have a long way to go also. I think we need to really dig into how can we support that adult population? How can we look at transitions from early childhood to adolescence, and then adolescence to adulthood? I do feel like we're missing some major gaps there. I think that's where that parent involvement can also come in to help support, bridge those gaps. I think that we've really done a great job on quickly addressing some of the needs with early intervention, but there's always more. Everywhere I go, there's a wait list, or we get phone calls and there's a wait list. And I just encourage families to go with their gut, tour clinics, look at all of them, ask questions about, hey, what does supervision look like? Because if you don't have the BCBA who's also supervising heavily on the caseload, that takes away from the progress and efficiency of the ABA services. Our job as BCBAs is to work ourselves out of a job, right? We want to help all of these kids to live an independent life and be as successful as they possibly can. And I almost describe what we do as like the psychology of learning, right? Like, I identify how your child learns and I'm going to teach them that way. But I need your help as parents and in the community to bridge that gap. And then one last thing on that, I really think also, we've been working a lot more, particularly in my own experience also, with first responders on how to respond to individuals who may be on the spectrum, or how to find and identify certain cues that might lead them to believe that they are on the spectrum, and then how to handle it or de-escalate those situations. So I see that happening, maybe a little slower than I'd like, but it's definitely happening out there.
Just some great things that I've noticed. The new announcer for the Detroit Tigers this year has autism. A kid that graduated from the high school that I went to as the first college football player ever from the state of Michigan, played college football this past fall. Those are major strides forward. So as we continue to get this message out there, I can just see that continuing to grow over the course of time. But you kind of hit on what leads me to the next question too, as far as the wait lists and whatnot. The other thing I often hear is, hey, Ryan, we don't need any more customers. We have plenty. The problem is the wait list. We need more people to help. We need more clinicians. And I can feel the passion and excitement that you have for this field. I can see how rewarding it is for people that also are maybe looking for work, and that this could be a rewarding field for them. Why don't you share, what you've seen and how rewarding it's been for you?
I'm going to try to answer this without getting emotional. The reason why I say that is because you don't just impact a child's life, but you impact their whole family. You impact their community. And it's not just their immediate family, but you impact the grandparents and the aunts and the uncles and the cousins. And even though the changes might feel kind of slow when you're in the nitty-gritty of it, or you're working with a child who might have some aggressive behaviors, and it might not be the most easygoing job, but I can promise you it's the most rewarding. I can promise you that when you hear parents come into meetings and they're sobbing because they never thought their child could reach these goals, you can't help but cry with them. You can't help but just feel excited about the changes that you're making within their day-to-day life. I like to look at what we do as challenging, but anything good is never easy. And my dad used to always tell me that growing up, anything you do that is good, or you fight for what is good and just, is never going to be easy. And I believe that's what we're doing. We're fighting for the greater good to support these families and these children to have a better quality of life. They deserve it. It's not easy, but I can promise you it's good and it's rewarding.
Absolutely. Well, hey, you can't fake that emotion that you just showed there. So I think that's that's pretty clear. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that have watched this that are interested, maybe either A, in services for their child, or B, to maybe come work. What is the best way for them to get started with the process and to reach out to you?
They can go on to any of our social media platforms. So we have Facebook and Instagram. I know we're looking at launching a TikTok. That's been the request of our technicians. So we hear you guys, and we're working on that. And then our website, so it's just welaughandlearn.com. Can kind of get you started the process. The quickest way, though, is to go ahead and call our front desk, and the numbers are on the website, whether you're looking for the Brighton location, Grand Blanc, or in-home services, and you'll be in touch with a specialist. She's great. She's super friendly and kind, easy to work with, and we can start that process.
And for those of you who are listening, go to the YouTube version. I've got all the contact information on the screen as well. Laugh and Learn, doing great things, and hey, you got to love that name, because that just sounds like fun, like a fun place to be. So, Karoline, thanks for bringing the raw emotion and the great knowledge today. This was an awesome podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much for having us.